Hello and welcome to Access to HE, Unit 282, The Nature and Context of Business. And this is an additional tutorial for week 4. It's the assignment tutorial, and I'm just going to talk you through the assignment, hopefully give you a little bit of extra detail as to what is required. Now you have all the criteria for the assignment. We've looked at each criteria in the weeks where we're having the tutorial around that area. And the criteria are also available on your assignment document as well, your assignment instruction document. So you'll be able to, you can flip back and reflect on that when you want to. So for this assignment, it's a portfolio, so it's going to be of a few documents that you're going to upload. And for this assignment, we need 4 documents from you to complete your portfolio. The first one is a completed front sheet. The second document is the actual written assignment. The third document is a reflective account. And the fourth document is the annex, the additional, or the appendices, as you wish. Okay, so it's the front sheet plus 3 documents that complete the assignment. So when you upload, when I go to mark it, I should see 3 documents in there, plus the front sheet. So if there's not 4 documents, and I'll let you know about that. But if the deadline has passed and you've left off a document, then I will have to mark it as is. So do take a lot of care and do check that everything is uploaded okay. Okay, so let's start with the first document. The front sheet is the front sheet. You just complete it and sign it. Fill in the bits, with your name, etc. that's required, and then put that up. So the first part of the document is the first document is the written assignment. And this is a written assignment of around 1,750 words. With our word count, we've always got plus or minus of 10% that you are not penalised for. So that's okay. So 10% more or 10% less you can do. You can't do any more than that, and I will start ignoring stuff if you've written way over. I might get to a point and stop marking. Okay, so don't do it. If you do a lot under the 1,750 words, like you only come in at 1,000 words or 900 words, then you've got bits missing in your assignment. Okay, so do pay attention to that. And if you have got something, it means there's something you haven't written about. What I have done, and what you will see, is that I've got a bit of a structure for you in the next slide about the assignment, which tells you pretty much how many words to do on what bit. So hopefully that will guide you, and you shouldn't have something missing unless you've missed a whole chunk out. So it's really important that you do check over your work before you upload it. So our essay title, which you need to put at the top of your document, is understanding the nature and context of business is important for those pursuing a career in the business sector. Okay, so it's everything written in the lilac letters. That is your actual essay title. And to address this, you need to critically discuss this assertion. And I've highlighted the word critically because it's not just a description we want. Not just a simple explanation. We want it to be critical. So we want some pros and cons, a few strengths and weaknesses in there. And we have looked at things like that over the last few weeks. So you should be able to find something to go in there. Okay. So please don't just give me a description. You may well just scrape past the assignment, but you won't get any decent grading for it. Okay. You need to make reference to two different types of business. I'm going to break this down a bit more in the next section. So don't worry about that really. But two different types of business. So think about where we looked at business, the different types of business, and you're going to pick on two. You need to look at one key area of applicable legislation. So once you've chosen your business, you're going to think about one, you only need to give me one bit of legislation. When we're assessing the business environment, you need to look at two different tools. As I said, I'll tell you a little bit more on the next slide. And then you will look at what resources are needed to manage a business. And you can give me general resources that you need to manage every business. Or if you've chosen a business example, you could give me something specific. And then the core skills needed by individuals to function effectively. So core skills, what are the basic skills that people need to have? So think of yourself, middle management, a regular worker. Let's see what you come up with. Okay, I'm going to go through that in a little bit more detail in the next slide. So we need it as a proper assignment, so there needs to be an introduction, a body of explanation and discussion with a conclusion at the end. Okay, and what I'd like you to do, I've given you a bit of a word count here to guide you for you to work within. You don't have to use that format, but I would suggest it's probably a good idea if you do, because it will give you a guide and it will, make sure that you haven't forgotten anything really. So the first is an introduction. So introduce us to the business world. It's a bit of general comment, and then reference two different business types. Maybe sort of compare them, show what's different. So we looked at business types really in our first week, didn't we? We looked at sole traders and partnerships and PLCs and that franchises. So just give me two different business types. And the main purpose of business, what is a business for? What does a business do? And that will link in to your criteria 1.1 and 1.2. It's about comparing different types of businesses and what is the main purpose. Okay. And I would suggest you use up to 250 words for that. Okay. So the next part is legislation. And as I said, you only have to pick one aspect of legislation, which we also looked at, I think, in week 1. So one aspect, pick out an aspect of legislation that you want to write about. That's probably going to be a little bit descriptive because you can't be too experimental with legislation. You need to just tell me what it is. So key legislation relevant to most businesses. So don't go for something too obscure, really, something that most businesses do. I've given you an example, e.g. employment legislation. A lot of people tend to choose that. That's fine. If you're a consumer one, you could do something about, consumer protection or trade descriptions or something like that. Okay. Don't really focus on health and safety, because health and safety is a sort of different type of legislation that has, courses all of its own. And it takes you away from the business environment really and goes into the safety environment. I would prefer something more generic business, such as employment legislation or diversity or, discrimination act, those sorts of things. So have a look at that really. But you only need to give me one piece of legislation. Then the next part is some brief illustrated examples of how two different tools can be used to inform business strategy. So you can pick two tools, SWOT, PESTLE, Porter's 5 Forces, anything else that you've read up and researched on. Those two are the easiest, but it's sort of up to you what you want to write about. See, I've said an illustrated example. I'm happy for you to put a chart in, because often these work well with charts and with a little bit of explanation underneath. Or you can give me an example of it being used in a business. You can find plenty of examples. and then sort of explain it a little bit. What sort of business is it? You know, what are the opportunities? What are the threats? You know, just a little bit of a summary. You've got 500 words to do that, but that does include your chart within it, really. So you need to highlight that. But as I said, use the charts because they do enhance the explanation of the tools. Specifically, SWOT and PESTLE, the charts really work for them. Everyone uses the charts, so it's sort of appropriate. The next part is a synopsis, so a summary, an overview of the key structures, processes, and resources required to run a business. I think we looked at that in week 3, if I recall. Yes, we did. You've got 250 words there just to give me a summary. So pick out the really important points about structures. Obviously, we looked at a lot of different types of structures. So you might want to sort of pick a couple out, you know, that are quite different and sort of say, you know, this is one end of the structure. This is a structure for a small company, a structure that we could be used for a large company. A little bit about sort of processes and a little bit about resources. Maybe an overview of a couple of the most important resources. You've got 250 words, so you've got to pick what you think are the most useful pieces of information that really sort of make it clear to people. Okay, so that was we did that in week 3. And the last piece we sort of did in week 4, a justification of the knowledge and skills. So what sort of knowledge and skills are required? What do we need to have? And how can you develop them? So think about personal development plans. And I did give you some examples when we looked at sort of developing some of the skills, where you could get them from. You know, can you do a training course? Can you read people's blogs? Can you, you know, be in a project group? Those sorts of things to develop. Can you be mentored by someone or coached by somebody? So do have a look at that. You've got 200 words there to look at. So it's going to be an overview. As I said, we did quite a lot there, but you're just going to have to sort of summarize it down to some really salient points. And then finally, say 50 words for a little conclusion that really shows your essay writing skills. You know, can you conclude well? It's just got to reinforce the main points. Don't ever bring anything new into a conclusion. No, no, no. Just a quick review of what you said. So you can just pick up some of the highlights of your body of your assignment. Now it has to be written like an essay. As I said, it needs an introduction. It needs a main body which has information and discussion, and then it has your brief conclusion. So do try to think about that. So I don't want to see lots of separate paragraphs that don't really relate. You've got to write it in an essay flow as well, okay? And that you know, there is a certain grade marker for how you present and how you write and how you organize and how you put things together. So it is really important, and you're going to get more and more practice at this throughout your course, I'm sure. But you really need to develop that skill, especially those of you who might be wanting to use this access course to go on to university. This is probably one of the biggest skills that you've got to learn. Okay, so that's the assignment structure. And apart from the front sheet, this is the first of your documents that you're going to upload. You don't have to upload them as you go along. You can save them and upload them all together just before the due date as you wish. Or if you want to, you can, if you just want to sort of get something out of the way, go over it and then upload it if you wish. But I cannot mark anything until after the due date. So it doesn't matter how early you put something up, I won't look at it. So it's better that really you keep it on your laptop, so where you can be reviewing it and proofreading it and that, and putting it up on the due date. Okay, the next document It's about reflection and development. Something again we looked at this week, week 4. So you need a brief, effective account of one business skills you feel you need to develop and how you might develop these skills. You've got 250 words to write that in. You need to have a look at some of the resources we've got on reflection. You might need to give us your opening few sentences can be an overview of some reflection that you've done. You might want to take an example from your own personal development plan. Did ask you to have a go at doing one. So think about it. You know the sort of skills that are required. So think about the required skills. Which one do you think you need to develop? Which one could take a little bit more work? Tell me a little bit about why and how you're going to do it. Okay, like I said, if you have completed a bit of a development plan, you can actually sort of bring me the chunk out of the development plan. You can put it into a little bit of a chart if you want. I don't mind really. Or you can just explain it really and say that this is coming out of your development plan. But do show me what you've done. It needs to evidence that you've done a bit of reflection, and it needs to evidence how you did your reflection. What did you do? Did you talk to other people? Did you talk to a manager? Is it something that you look at regularly? Do you sort of look at your results on something? Do you go back and check things? Whatever you've done. Okay, so that is the second document you've got to upload. 250 words. Okay, the third and final document of the assignment is an annex or an appendices, as you wish, that summarizes how you planned and organized and actually put the assignment together. So it's looking at the nuts and bolts of how you created your assignment. Okay. Now, this is not included in your word count. This is separate. You've got the word count of 1,750 for the assignment, and you've got the word count of 250 for your reflection. They are the set word counts, which adds up to 2,000, which is the right amount for this level of assignment. The annex is just something you need to do, but you still need to do it. Please don't think it's not in the word count, you don't need to do it. I won't penalise you if you go over, but I will get bored reading it, okay? So I'm suggesting 200 words because that's really all you need to do. So you just need a little bit of a structure. What's the title of the assignment? What's the start and due dates? What are the key activities that you undertook? You may do this, you may prepare this assignment over a 2-week period. Okay, so when did you start it? When did you finish it? What bits did you do when? You can do that into a little chart for me if you want. You can do it into an Excel chart or some other chart that you feel quite happy for, or a table. Doesn't really need to be written out. It just needs to show me that you had some methodical process of looking at the assignment, thinking about it, planning it, starting to write it and completing it. Okay. And the second part is a basic sketch of the content. So what did you choose to put in it? Now, you might have done a mind map where you just jotted down some ideas. You might have done a brainstorm. You might have threw down some ideas and then put them in orders of importance, or identified what sections they were going in, or something like that. So if you want to give me something in a graphic form, or a sketch or a drawing of how you did it, that's fine. If that's not your style, which it isn't everybody's, you can just give me a bullet point list of the key areas that you covered, maybe identifying what was important to not, what ones did you start with, and maybe identifying what ones you threw out, or which ones you definitely kept in, that sort of thing, and what order, however you worked it out, really. So it doesn't have to have too much writing. It can be more bullet points and, sketches or graphs. See what you can come up with. Okay. And as I said, the words that you use in this annex will not be counted at all. So if you do, I'm saying keep it to about 200 words because you probably don't need any more. Okay, because you're only talking highlights here. So please don't do any more, really, because I've got to read them all. So I just need something to show me that you know how to organise your thoughts and plan an assignment. Okay, that's what you're evidencing for me. So that's your third document. Okay. Here's just some added notes that I want you to think about. Please ensure that you acknowledge all public sources of information used in your work. And in other words, do your references. If you've picked up something from another document, please do a reference. We want Harvard style references here. That's the style that this college uses. So please don't reference in APA. If I say Harvard, I mean Harvard. If you don't know what a Harvard style referencing is, I'm happy to put a guide up for you. Okay. Next point, don't exceed the maximum overall word allowance because it will affect grading standard 3. Like I said, if you've got particularly the assignment, which is 1,750 words, if you exceed that by more than 10%, if you write 2,500 words, I may stop marking the last 500 words, and they might have been the important bits. Okay, so you will go down on grading standard 3, but the fact is that you may well not get marked for something that you really wanted to be marked for elsewhere on another grading standard as well. Okay, so that your final grade would certainly be affected. So please make all efforts to stay within. Any work that's submitted, as I said, you can put it up as you go along, or you can keep them all together and put them up at once. I don't mind, but they have to be there by the deadline. If you submit work after the deadline, you should have had an agreed extension. To get an agreed extension, you have to ask before the deadline. I would prefer it wasn't the day before as well, okay? Because that does not give the college time to discuss it, debate it, discuss it with me, and to consider if there's any mitigating circumstances. We don't really accept things like I was a bit busy as mitigation, or sorry, I went on holiday for a week, because you need to work around that. Okay. I mean, if you've been sent away for work and you can't do any work for like 3 weeks or something like that, then you need to inform the college up ahead of time, and they might make an arrangement for you. Okay. If you got run over by a bus the day before you're about to upload and you are in hospital, we probably accept that as mitigation, but the college has been known to ask for doctor's notes. Okay, so don't be offended if you get that sort of question, because there's a lot of people who don't always tell the truth. So sometimes we have to ask things that may offend you. And it's not an invasion of your privacy. We do have to keep records for our evaluators. They do come in and have a look and make sure that we're following all the rules properly. So, don't be offended by that. Okay, so please do it. So if you are going to ask for an extension, you need to send an email to the college as soon as you know you want an extension, and copy it into myself. Okay, you've got my email there. Don't forget to proofread and check your spelling, grammar before you upload. This may seem obvious, but it's amazing the amount of people who don't. And again, your grading standard 3 may well be impacted. That's the one about your presentation and your, actual sort of academic skills. So that can be affected if you just make lots and lots of sort of spelling mistakes and grammar. If you do have a problem with spelling, if you have some dyslexia or something like that, please just let me know ahead of time. You can send something to me personally, but do let me know, and then I'm used to working with people with any sort of different types of disability. So it's fine, but we just, we do need to know, really. But otherwise, please proofread. So you need to give yourself time. So don't give yourself half an hour before the deadline to do that sort of thing. Make sure you've proofread it at least a day before you're going to upload it, okay? Because you may have to make changes to it. Otherwise, what's the point in proofreading it? And then you'll be contacting us saying, oh, I haven't got time to get it on in front of the deadline. Don't leave it to the last minute either, because you might find that there's a whole load of students trying to upload something at that time. And guess what? The website doesn't like it sometimes if lots of people are uploading. Now, usually we haven't really ever had a problem, but this is just normal technology, so don't be surprised. So please try to get it in good time. And finally, don't forget to include the front sheet. That's your 4th document. So there will be 4 documents. There should be 4 documents sitting there in your upload. And that's, as I said, your front sheet. I have asked you that before. Complete everything you can complete and sign it. Please sign it. Again, that gets picked up when we have our quality assurance. So if you haven't signed to say that it's all your own work, then that can be a problem for us. So I might send it back to you at some time and say, can I get your signature on this? But I'd rather you did it in the first place. Okay, that's pretty much everything, I hope. But any questions you have, you can email me or you can WhatsApp me. I'm a bit faster responding on WhatsApp, but you can still email me if you prefer. Okay, and hopefully I can help you with any questions that you have. I can't mark anything ahead of time, and I cannot look at drafts. Okay, just to remind you, but I can give you advice. Okay, thank you, and I will see you for our next unit. Okay, goodbye and good luck with the assignment.